Alright, following a win over the Hornets, the Lakers get more good news. That being a return update on all three of LeBron, Gabe Vincent, and Adou Thiero, all of which are positive and do point to them trending in the right direction, and possibly two of them coming back in maybe a week or possibly less for one of them. And well, beginning with LeBron, last week we heard from Shams that he's likely 1 to 2 weeks away from coming back, and that apparently did happen to be true. As according to a new report and directly from JJ Redick, he's actually practicing. No, not with their big league team, he's not with them during their current road trip, but with the South Bay Lakers. According to Redick, he plans to practice with them. I doubt he did yesterday before their game, but maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But it's very likely coming soon, and if he gets that 5-on-5 practice under his belt, some ramp-up period, some conditioning, getting some work back on the court, probably work off the rust a little bit, then he probably won't be back too far long after that point. And well, the current word going around right now is that he is currently targeting a November 18th return date. That being the first day and first game after their current road trip, following their 6-game current road trip, their final game against Milwaukee in Milwaukee on November 15th, then coming back to LA and staying there for one game, that being against the Utah Jazz again on November 18th. That's likely the return date for LeBron and probably the date that he has circled on his calendar right now. I think that's been the date for him, and I've been saying that for roughly a month at this point. It's lined up with his timeline. It made the most sense after a pretty long road trip that again they're currently on right now. And I imagine that's what LeBron's trying to do too. So nothing guaranteed yet, but obviously a good update regarding LeBron is practicing or planning to practice with their team, their South Bay team. And after this current road trip, he likely will be back for their first game, if not shortly after that point. So again, good update on LeBron. But then for Adou Thiero and Gabe Vincent, also a positive update on these two. According to JJ Redick, Adou Thiero is progressing, and the hope is that he will be able to make his Lakers debut during their current road trip. And yes, their current road trip. Not their next road trip, but this current one that only has a few games left. In fact, it only has 4 days left. So if he does make his Lakers debut and is able to play for them, that means that he'll either play in their next game at OKC, which is not very likely in my opinion, or their NBA Cup game in New Orleans on November 14th, or then for their final game on this road trip in Milwaukee on November 15th, which does happen to be the second night of a back-to-back. So if you ask me, that's probably the game they're lining him up to play in. I imagine they'll play pretty hard in their OKC game. Obviously, they want to win that and test their current strength against a top-tier opponent. Also would like to win an NBA Cup game. There does happen to be a prize for that, and the fact that they are yet to be beat in the NBA Cup, obviously they're going to keep trying to win. But for the second night of a back-to-back, I wouldn't be shocked if they maybe rest both Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, maybe a starter or two with them, and that obviously would leave some major holes in their rotation that some other players have to fill, which could possibly be Adou Thiero. If he is in fact ready and Redick believes that he is ready to play for them, and even at this stage, then he might be able to make his Lakers debut in that game, which we have been eagerly anticipating. We've talked about it here on the channel, even apart from the injury and when he might be able to come back, what he might be able to offer their team on the court too. We're talking about a rookie here after all, so keep the expectations pretty low. For every rookie that comes out and plays great immediately, there's plenty more that need over a year to work up to the NBA level, if they even make it that far to begin with. But for Adou Thiero, he obviously has some very tantalizing potential, especially on defense, or simply in regard to athletic ability for that fact, sporting a 40+ inch vertical, which he has shown off at times in their practice facility. The Lakers social media team even teasing that throughout the summer, him getting up for some monstrous dunks and getting his head directly at the rim. Obviously we want to see that in game action. So if he is able to get out there and actually get on the NBA court for an actual NBA game and against a real opponent, what could he offer their team? Well, I think he's kind of set to be more of a backup player for them and not play a ton of minutes, at least not right away. At this point he's pretty limited offensively. Didn't even get to play in summer league, so wasn't able to test his 3-point shot at the NBA level. Hasn't played a single NBA minute, neither at the NBA or G League, so the 3-point line might be a bit of an adjustment for him. I mean, he wasn't a great 3-point shooter throughout college, was a sub 30% 3-point shooter, so that might be tough for him. Not saying that the speed will be tough for him to keep up with, but might be a bit of an adjustment for him too. I mean, I'm definitely not worried about him defensively or athletically. If anything, he might be a bit of a tough matchup for some current NBA players, both in regard to athletic ability and simply strength too. I mean, we're talking about a 6'7" guy that's over 230 pounds as a rookie. Definitely has an NBA frame and NBA body immediately, but the speed, the shooting, the motion on the court, and how different it is compared to the college level will be a bit of an adjustment here for Adou Thiero, and that will obviously take some time for him to get used to. But if you keep the role for him pretty limited and don't ask him to do too much, which I can't imagine they would, primarily as an off-ball cutter offensively, maybe in the dunker spot and play at that 4-5 spot even. He's very athletic and can even be a bit of a lob threat. If they do that and don't make him do too much shooting and be too much of a floor spacer, then he might be able to be okay offensively, while being able to be possibly pretty effective defensively too. Even at this point, he probably could take on a tough matchup. Maybe not the best player on the court and not capable of taking on a top 10 NBA player, but for the most part, I think he will be able to hold his ground, will be able to keep up, and possibly make an impact on the court in the right matchup and in the right situation. But regardless, I'm very excited to watch him play. Obviously the athlete that he is, and if he gets out on the full court for a dunk, I'm obviously anticipating that. But simply to watch him play and get to see him wear the purple and gold, we have yet to see that, neither throughout Summer League, preseason, or the regular season, so this could be our first opportunity to get that with Adou Thiero during their current road trip. But then finally for Gabe Vincent, not a direct update and not an updated timeline on him yet, but we did get to see him practicing and warming up, actually warming up with Adou Thiero prior to their game last night, doing some shooting and work on the court pregame, likely hinting that he's not too far away from returning himself, initially being given a 2 to 4 week recovery timeline, initially getting hurt on October 27th, spraining that left ankle, currently at the 2.5 week point with that recovery timeline, and if he didn't suffer a setback or, they don't want to push that timeline further, then he probably is looking at coming back in roughly a week from now, probably kind of similar to that LeBron timeline too. Obviously not being given a guaranteed date with him, not even with LeBron despite the hints, I would probably guess that he'll come back shortly after LeBron, maybe on their road trip after that point, maybe on that November 25th game against the LA Clippers, but it's good to know that he's back on the court, is able to actually do a pregame warm-up and put some stress on that ankle, doesn't have to stay off his feet or let alone even not come with their team on their road trip. I think that's a good sign for Gabe Vincent. So between all three of himself, Adou Thiero, and LeBron, they're all kind of fairly close to coming back here, which is obviously a good thing. Likely in the next 4 to 5 days for Adou Thiero, hopefully and probably even on their current road trip according to JJ Redick. LeBron will likely come back directly after that road trip on their very first game at home on November 18th against Utah. Again, not guaranteed, but very likely hinted at, both from JJ Redick and other reporters alike. Then for Gabe Vincent, probably shortly after that point, maybe that game, maybe following the road trip, but probably a little bit after that point. And the good thing here is that they're all fairly close to coming back, and fingers crossed, but maybe their team finally getting fully healthy. Having all three of Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James in the court for the first time this season, obviously that would be a good thing, with how great both Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves have and currently are playing right now. Then adding a fully healthy LeBron to that point, he's gotten plenty of time to recover, hasn't had to push his way back and come back too early because they haven't been playing well and they need him back desperately. That's not the case. He's likely very healthy at this point, and is probably more than ready to help their team out, and probably he himself is pretty eager too as well. Now I know we all might feel a bit differently about that and LeBron's eventual return with their team, but I don't think you can deny that a fully healthy LeBron isn't able to help their team out in some way or another. I don't think that's debatable. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the updates to LeBron, Adou Thiero, and Gabe Vincent, and their very likely upcoming returns in the next couple of weeks here, if not even the next few days for Adou Thiero? How do you feel about that, and what are your expectations for all three? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching, and have a great day or night.